Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live, day 6 of Mindset Camp, and I'm so proud of you guys because y'all have been doing a great job showing up here every day and communicating and giving your feedback and sharing our experiences together and growing together. So, today we are going to pick up where we left off in our audio recording. We're listening to the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F because we're giving too many. We're just passing it all out. We're just caring about so many things that we can't control. That is not a positive experience for us. We're worrying about everybody's businesses except for our own. We need to mind the business that pays us, and take care of ourselves a little bit better because there's a lot of things that's going on in life that we cannot control. We cannot control other people. We cannot control how other people feel, how they react. We can't control their perspectives. Everybody's perspective is different. Dealing with the same situation in the same place at the same time, we still have unique experiences. We don't see things exactly the way other people see them. We never will. Like, sorry, I got lit. We never will see things exactly the way that other people see them. And it's just something that we need to come to grips with, that what's paining you, the other person may not even realize the pain that you're experiencing. If you haven't even voiced it to them, you haven't even told them how you feel about it, you can't expect them to automatically know. You can't expect them to automatically know how you feel. And then the gray area around that is trying to deliver how you feel to someone, because the person on the receiving end may not be very receptive, especially if they feel wronged. They may not receive what you're saying very well. So we need to be able to voice how we feel about situations, but in a way to where um, we are being mature. And sometimes you have to be the bigger person. Sometimes you got to shut up when you don't want to shut up, and you just want to like, and just let it rip. Don't do it. You're going to cause more harm than good. So the best way to deal with it is to just keep an even temper, keep an even emotion about it, be the bigger person, and just know that in life, you're going to have differences. There's things that we just can't change, and we just have to do the best with what is given to us. Life is not perfect, and life is not fair, and life will never be fair. It's just not a fair place. If you think about it, the way that the world used to be, let's try to think back some thousands of years ago. If we think about it in like 100-year chunks leading up to now, the world is a better place. No matter how crazy and terrible the world may be at this point, the world is a better place. And no matter how crazy your life may be, your life can end up in a better place, and it should, because we're supposed to be learning and growing from the things that we're going through. Our relationships with people, our business relationships, our relationships with our children. We need to be constantly learning and growing in those areas and trying to be the best people that we can be, even though you're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. Fair doesn't even exist. Life is what it is. Life gives us what it gives us, and it's up to us to sort it out and to not go crazy. So let's pick up where we left off in the book. I'm pulling up the book now. We're going to listen to about 20 minutes or so of the recording, and then we're going to have some discussion around what it is that we just listened to. And try to reframe our mind and put up our mental defenses before we go out into the day, out into the world, and deal with different people who don't have the same perspective as us. That's the thing. That's the thing. Going out in your day with your defenses up, knowing that we all do not see eye to eye, and that we may not ever see eye to eye. We may not ever feel the same, and that's okay. It's okay. So let's go ahead and get started. We're in chapter 4 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F.
In 1983, a talented young guitarist was kicked out of his band in the worst possible way. The band had just been signed to a record deal. They were about to record their first album. But a couple days before recording began, the band showed the guitarist the door. No warning, no discussion, no dramatic blowout. They literally woke him up one day by handing him a bus ticket home. As he sat on the bus back to Los Angeles from New York, the guitarist kept asking himself, how did this happen? What did I do wrong? What will I do now? Record contracts didn't exactly fall out of the sky, especially for raucous upstart metal bands. Had he missed his one and only shot? But by the time the bus hit LA, the guitarist had gotten over his self-pity and had vowed to start a new band. He decided that this new band would be so successful that his old band would forever regret their decision. He would become so famous that they would be subjected to decades of seeing him on TV, hearing him on the radio, seeing posters of him in the streets and pictures of him in magazines. They'd be flipping burgers somewhere, loading vans from their shitty club gigs, fat and drunk with their ugly wives, and he'd be rocking out in front of stadium crowds live on television. He'd bathe in the tears of his betrayers, each tear wiped dry by a crisp, clean $100 bill. And so the guitarist worked as if possessed by a musical demon. He spent months recruiting the best musicians he could find, far better musicians than his previous bandmates. He wrote dozens of songs and practiced religiously. His seething anger fueled his ambition. Revenge became his muse. Within a couple of years, his new band had signed a record deal of their own, and a year after that, their first record would go gold. The guitarist's name was Dave Mustaine, and the new band he formed was the legendary heavy metal band Megadeth. Megadeth would go on to sell over 25 million albums and tour the world many times over. Today, Mustaine is considered one of the most brilliant and influential musicians in the history of heavy metal music. Unfortunately, the band he was kicked out of was Metallica, which has sold over 180 million albums worldwide. Metallica is considered by many to be one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And because of this, in a rare intimate interview in 2003, the tearful Mustaine admitted that he couldn't help but still consider himself a failure. Despite all that he had accomplished, in his mind he would always be the guy who got kicked out of Metallica. We're apes. We think we're all sophisticated with our toaster ovens and designer footwear, but we're just a bunch of finely ornamented apes. And because we are apes, we instinctually measure ourselves against others and vie for status. The question is not whether we evaluate ourselves against others. Rather, the question is, by what standard do we measure ourselves? Dave Mustaine, whether he realized it or not, chose to measure himself by whether he was more successful and popular than Metallica. The experience of getting thrown out of his former band was so painful for him that he adopted success relative to Metallica as the metric by which to measure himself and his music career. Despite taking a horrible event in his life and making something positive out of it, as Mustaine did with Megadeth, his choice to hold on to Metallica's success as his life-defining metric continued to hurt him decades later. Despite all the money and the fans and the accolades, he still considered himself a failure. Now, you and I may look at Dave Mustaine's situation and laugh. Here's this guy with millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of adoring fans, a career doing the thing he loves best, and still he's getting all weepy-eyed that his rock star buddies from 20 years ago are way more famous than he is. This is because you and I have different values than Mustaine does, and we measure ourselves by different metrics. Our metrics are probably more like, I don't want to work a job for a boss I hate, or I'd like to earn enough money to send my kid to a good school, or I'd be happy not to wake up in a drainage ditch. And by these metrics, Mustaine is wildly, unimaginably successful. But by his metric, be more popular and successful than Metallica, he's a failure. Our values determine the metrics by which we measure ourselves and everyone else. Onoda's value of loyalty to the Japanese Empire is what sustained him on Lubang for almost 30 years. But this same value is also what made him miserable upon his return to Japan. Mustaine's metric of being better than Metallica likely helped him launch an incredibly successful music career. But that same metric later tortured him in spite of his success. If you want to change how you see your problems, you have to change what you value and or how you measure failure and success. As an example, let's look at another musician who got kicked out of another band. His story eerily echoes that of Dave Mustaine, although it happened 2 decades earlier. It was 1962, and there was a buzz around an up-and-coming band from Liverpool, England. This band had funny haircuts and an even funnier name, but their music was undeniably good, and the record industry was finally taking notice. There was John, the lead singer and songwriter, Paul, the boyish-faced romantic bass player, George, the rebellious lead guitar player, and then there was the drummer. He was considered the best-looking of the bunch. The girls all went wild for him, and it was his face that began to appear in the magazines first. He was the most professional member of the group, too. He didn't do drugs. He had a steady girlfriend. There were even a few people in suits and ties who thought he should be the face of the band, not John or Paul. His name was Pete Best. And in 1962, after landing their first record contract, the other three members of the Beatles quietly got together and asked their manager, Brian Epstein, to fire him. Epstein agonized over the decision. He liked Pete, so he put it off, hoping the other three guys would change their minds. Months later, a mere 3 days before the recording of the first record began, Epstein finally called Best to his office. There, the manager unceremoniously told him to piss off and find another band. He gave no reason, no explanation, no condolences. Just told him that the other guys wanted him out of the group, so best of luck. As a replacement, the band brought in some oddball named Ringo Starr. Ringo was older and had a big funny nose. Ringo agreed to get the same ugly haircut as John, Paul, and George, and insisted on writing songs about octopuses and submarines. The other guys said, sure, fuck it, why not? Within 6 months of Best's firing, Beatlemania had erupted, making John, Paul, George, and Ringo Starr arguably four of the most famous faces on the entire planet. Meanwhile, Best understandably fell into a deep depression and spent a lot of time doing what any Englishman will do if you give him a reason to: drink. The rest of the 60s were not kind to Pete Best. By 1965, he had sued 2 of the Beatles for slander, and all of his other musical projects had failed horribly. In 1968, he attempted suicide, only to be talked out of it by his mother. His life was a wreck. Best didn't have the same redemptive story Dave Mustaine did. He never became a global superstar or made millions of dollars. Yet in many ways, Best ended up better off than Mustaine. In an interview in 1994, Best said, "I'm happier than I would have been with the Beatles." What the hell? Best explained that the circumstances of his getting kicked out of the Beatles ultimately led him to meet his wife. And then his marriage led him to having children. His values changed. He began to measure his life differently. Fame and glory would have been nice, sure, but he decided that what he already had was more important: a big and loving family, a stable marriage, a simple life. He even still got to play drums, touring Europe and recording albums well into the 2000s. So what was really lost? Just a lot of attention and adulation, whereas what was gained meant so much more to him. These stories suggest that some values and metrics are better than others. Some lead to good problems that are easily and regularly solved. Others lead to bad problems that are not easily and regularly solved. Shitty values. There are a handful of common values that create really poor problems for people, problems that can hardly be solved. So let's go over some of them quickly. 1. Pleasure. Pleasure is great, but it's a horrible value to prioritize your life around. Ask any drug addict how his pursuit of pleasure turned out. Ask an adulterer who shattered her family and lost her children whether pleasure ultimately made her happy. Ask a man who almost ate himself to death how pleasure helped him solve his problems. Pleasure is a false god. Research shows that people who focus their energy on superficial pleasures end up more anxious, more emotionally unstable, and more depressed. Pleasure is the most superficial form of life satisfaction and therefore the easiest to obtain and the easiest to lose. And yet, pleasure is what's marketed to us 24/7. It's what we fixate on. It's what we use to numb and distract ourselves. But pleasure, while necessary in life in certain doses, isn't by itself sufficient. Pleasure is not the cause of happiness. Rather, it is the effect. If you get the other stuff right, the other values and metrics, then pleasure will naturally occur as a byproduct. 2. Material success. Many people measure their self-worth based on how much money they make, or what kind of car they drive, or whether their front lawn is greener and prettier than the next-door neighbors. Research shows that once one is able to provide for basic physical needs, food, shelter, and so on, the correlation between happiness and worldly success quickly approaches zero. So if you're starving and living on the street in the middle of India, an extra $10,000 a year would affect your happiness a lot. But if you're sitting pretty in the middle class in a developed country, an extra $10,000 per year won't affect anything much, meaning that you're killing yourself working overtime and weekends for basically nothing. The other issue with overvaluing material success is the danger of prioritizing it over other values, such as honesty, nonviolence, and compassion. When people measure themselves not by their behavior, but by the status symbols they're able to collect, then not only are they shallow, but they're probably assholes as well. 3. Always being right. Our brains are inefficient machines. We consistently make poor assumptions, misjudge probabilities, misremember facts, give in to cognitive biases, and to make decisions based on our emotional whims. As humans, we're wrong pretty much constantly. So if your metric for life success is to be right, well, you're going to have a difficult time rationalizing all of the bullshit to yourself. The fact is, people who base their self-worth on being right about everything prevent themselves from learning from their mistakes. They lack the ability to take on new perspectives and empathize with others. They close themselves off to new and important information. It's far more helpful to assume that you're ignorant and don't know a whole lot. This keeps you unattached to superstitious or poorly informed beliefs and promotes a constant state of learning and growth. 4. Staying positive. Then there are those who measure their lives by the ability to be positive about, well, pretty much everything. Lost your job? Great! That's an opportunity to explore your passions. Husband cheated on you with your sister? Well, at least you're learning what you really mean to the people around you. Child dying of throat cancer? At least you don't have to pay for college anymore. Well, there is something to be said for staying on the sunny side of life. The truth is, sometimes life sucks. And the healthiest thing you can do is admit it. Denying negative emotions leads to experiencing deeper and more prolonged negative emotions and to emotional dysfunction. Constant positivity is a form of avoidance, not a valid solution to life's problems. Problems which, by the way, if you're choosing the right values and metrics, should be invigorating you and motivating you. It's simple, really. Things go wrong, people upset us, accidents happen. Things make us feel like shit, and that's fine. Negative emotions are a necessary component of emotional health. To deny that negativity is to perpetuate problems rather than solve them. The trick with negative emotions is to, 1, express them in a socially acceptable and healthy manner, and 2, express them in a way that aligns with your values. A simple example. A value of mine is nonviolence, as measured by metrics such as not hitting. Therefore, when I get mad at somebody, I express that anger, but I also make a point of not punching my adversary in the face. Radical idea, I know. But the anger is not the problem. Anger is natural. Anger is a part of life. Anger is arguably quite healthy in many situations. Remember, emotions are just feedback. See, it's the punching people in the face that's the problem, not the anger. The anger is merely the messenger for my fist in your face. Don't blame the messenger. Blame my fist or your face. When we force ourselves to stay positive at all times, we deny the existence of our life's problems. And when we deny our problems, we rob ourselves of the chance to solve them and generate happiness. Problems add a sense of meaning and importance to our life. Thus, to duck our problems is to lead a meaningless, even if supposedly pleasant, existence. In the long run, completing a marathon makes us happier than eating a chocolate cake. Raising a child makes us happier than beating a video game. Starting a small business with friends while struggling to make ends meet makes us happier than buying a new computer. These activities are stressful, arduous, and often unpleasant. They also require withstanding problem after problem. Yet they are some of the most meaningful moments and joyous things we'll ever do. They involve pain, struggle, even anger and despair. Yet once they're accomplished, we look back and get all misty-eyed telling our grandkids about them. As Freud once said, one day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. This is why these values, pleasure, material success, always being right, staying positive, are poor ideals for a person's life. Some of the greatest moments of one's life are not pleasant, not successful, not known, and not positive. The point is to nail down some good values and metrics, and pleasure and success will naturally emerge as a result. These things are side effects of good values. By themselves, they are empty highs. Defining good and bad values. Good values are 1. Reality-based, 2. Socially constructive, and 3. Immediate and controllable. Bad values are 1. Superstitious, 2. Socially destructive, and 3. Not immediate or controllable. Honesty is a good value because it's something you have complete control over. It reflects reality and it benefits others, even if it's sometimes unpleasant. Popularity, on the other hand, is a bad value. If that's your value, and if your metric is being the most popular guy or girl at the dance party, much of what happens will be out of your control. You don't know who else will be at the event, and you probably won't know who half those people are. Second, the value or metric isn't based on reality. You may feel popular or unpopular, when in fact you have no fucking clue what anybody else really thinks about you. Side note, as a rule, people who are terrified of what others think about them are actually terrified of all the shitty things they think about themselves being reflected back at them. Some examples of good, healthy values: honesty, innovation, vulnerability, standing up for oneself, standing up for others, self-respect, curiosity, charity, humility, creativity. Some examples of bad, unhealthy values: dominance through manipulation or violence, indiscriminate fucking, feeling good all the time, always being the center of attention, not being alone, being liked by everybody, being rich for the sake of being rich, sacrificing small animals to the pagan gods. You'll notice that good, healthy values are achieved internally. Something like creativity or humility can be experienced right now. You simply have to orient your mind in a certain way to experience it. These values are immediate and controllable, and engage you with the world as it is, rather than how you wish it were. Bad values are generally reliant on external events: flying in a private jet, being told you're right all the time, owning a house in the Bahamas, eating a cannoli while getting blown by 3 strippers. Bad values, while sometimes fun or pleasurable, lie outside of your control and often require socially destructive or superstitious means to achieve. Values are about prioritization. Everybody would love a good cannoli or a house in the Bahamas. The question is your priorities. What are the values that you prioritize above everything else, and that therefore influence your decision-making more than anything else? Hiroe Noda's highest value was complete loyalty and service to the Japanese Empire. This value, in case you couldn't tell from reading about him, stank worse than a rotten sushi roll. It created really shitty problems for Hiro. Namely, he got stuck on a remote island where he lived off bugs and worms for 30 years. Oh, and he felt compelled to murder innocent civilians too. So despite the fact that Hiro saw himself as a success, and despite the fact that he lived up to his metrics, I think we can all agree that his life really sucked. None of us would trade shoes with him given the opportunity, nor would we commend his actions. Dave Mustaine achieved great fame and glory and felt like a failure anyway. This is because he'd adopted a crappy value based on some arbitrary comparison to the success of others. This value gave him awful problems, such as, I need to sell 150 million more records, then everything will be great. And my next tour needs to be nothing but stadiums. Problems he thought he needed to solve in order to be happy. It's no surprise that he wasn't. On the contrary, Pete Best pulled a switcheroo. Despite being depressed and distraught by getting kicked out of the Beatles, as he grew older, he learned to reprioritize what he cared about and was able to measure his life in a new light. Because of this, Best grew into a happy and healthy old man with an easy life and great family. Things that, ironically, the four Beatles would spend decades struggling to achieve or maintain. When we have poor values, that is, poor standards we set for ourselves and others, we are essentially giving fucks about the things that don't matter, things that in fact make our life worse. But when we choose better values, we are able to divert our fucks to something better, toward things that matter, things that improve the state of our well-being and that generate happiness, pleasure, and success as side effects. This, in a nutshell, is what self-improvement is really about. Prioritizing better values, choosing better things to give a fuck about. Because when you give better fucks, you get better problems. And when you get better problems, you get a better life. The rest of this book is dedicated to 5 counterintuitive values that I believe are the most beneficial values one can adopt. All follow the backwards law we talked about earlier, in that they're negative. All require confronting deeper problems rather than avoiding them through highs. These 5 values are both unconventional and uncomfortable, but to me, they are life-changing. The first, which we'll look at in the next chapter, is a radical form of responsibility. Taking responsibility for everything that occurs in your life, regardless of who's at fault. The second is uncertainty. The acknowledgement of your own ignorance and the cultivation of constant doubt in your own beliefs. The next is failure. The willingness to discover your own flaws and mistakes so that they may be improved upon. The fourth is rejection. The ability to both say and hear no, thus clearly defining what you will and will not accept in your life. The final value is the contemplation of one's own mortality. This one is crucial, because paying vigilant attention to one's own death is perhaps the only thing capable of helping us keep all our other values in proper perspective. Chapter 5.
Oh my goodness. That was deep. That was deep. I got a page full of notes. That was so deep. Oh my goodness. So if you're just tuning in, we are listening to The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Audio recording. You can get it on. I have mine playing from my Apple bookstore. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this book is life changing and is different because everybody is trying to tell you to ignore the problems around you. It act like it don't exist. And just think about the positive things. Just say your positive affirmations while you're going through all of the bullshit that you're going through and pretend like that negative shit ain't happening. But it's happening and we got to deal with it. So we need to learn how to deal with it because situations in life do not stop happening. It's going to keep happening. Different things are going to keep happening in your life. So let's talk about this perspective. Change how you see your problems. Okay, I'm just going to read this off a little bit. Failure in one area can make way for true success. What's your meaning of life? So first of all, we all have different perspectives. Remember, 2 people could be in the same place at the same time, experiencing 2 different things. They have 2 different experiences, even though they're in the same place at the same time, because we all have different perspectives. And that's the first thing that we need to understand. The way that you see a situation is not the same way that someone else sees the situation, because the way we see it is based on our past experiences that we have personally been through. Okay, there may be certain memories, certain triggers, certain experiences that it mirrors from the past that we are thinking about, that the other person is not thinking about, because they did not have those experiences. They didn't have someone do such and such to them, so they have a totally different perspective than you. So that's the first thing we need to understand, is especially if we're dealing with situations where two people are not seeing eye to eye, people who are in relationships, people who are in co-workerships, work relationships, our relationships with our children, our family members, our friends. First thing first, we have different perspectives. So understand that, okay? Next thing, we do need to change how we see our problems. And that goes to something else that he said later on in when he was reading the five values that we'll be going over in the book. Taking responsibility, okay? Change how you see your problems in taking responsibility, okay? I personally take responsibility for my life and for everything that I have gone through and experienced in my life, because I can see the part that I played in it. And the good times and the bad times and the times where I was almost kidnapped, the time, and I was too old to be going through that. I was too old to be. I almost got kidnapped when I was pregnant with Luca, y'all. That's the young baby, the little one. I almost got kidnapped. I put myself in that situation. The times where I even experienced unwanted abuse, I can see in me choosing to be there led me to those situations. I'm not blaming myself for being abused. I'm taking responsibility for making the choice to put myself in that place that I knew I should not have been. I knew I should not have been with those people. I knew I should not have gone to that place, and I knew I shouldn't have been there. So I take responsibility for that, and I no longer put myself in those potentially dangerous situations. Okay. Um, Failure in one area can make way for true success. A lot of you guys are really hurt over your relationships ending. It's coming to an end. Accept it. It's over. You know this already. You've been knowing it for a long time that the relationship is over. It's done. There's no more moving forward in it. Okay? You don't see eye to eye. You want different things. You're kind of dragging somebody along, or somebody's dragging you along, and it's not what you really want. Even if you really want the person, failure in one area can make way for success, because going through this difficult situation where you have to let something go or let somebody go, and you don't know the future. You don't know if you'll be able to find somebody else. You don't know if, you're afraid to do it again, to try again. You don't know if you're going to be single for the rest of your life. Maybe you're someone who might be suffering with, a STD that is, maybe herpes or HPV, or you might have HIV, and you're just like, I'm scared to leave this relationship because I don't know if I could get into another one. I don't know, and I don't want to be by myself. That's holding you back from success. Okay. Failure can make way for success, because something has to end in order for something else to begin. It's got to end for something else to begin. So make way for the blessings that God has for you. Okay. Don't be afraid for things to end. Don't be afraid for your job to end. If you get fired, it could be a blessing. I got fired from my job in 2017, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It was the best thing that has ever happened to me, outside of having my children. What is your meaning of life? What does life mean to you? What does life mean to you? What is your meaning of life? You need to define what life means to you. We all have our own, like I said, we got our own perspectives. So we have our own meaning for life. So personally, I believe that I'm here on this earth to not only effectively make change and help people to see the error of their ways and make better decisions and have a better life. That is part of the meaning of my life. But my first thing first is having children and having a family. That is my number one thing, because no matter how successful I become in life, I don't want to see myself as an old person with no one around me. I don't. I don't want to see myself shut off in a lavish home that is empty with just the people who work with me, the people who help me. I don't want to see myself in a nursing home when nobody comes and visits me. With all the money sitting there in the bank, sitting in life insurance policies, with no one to pass it down to. It makes me not really want to work that hard or not really try that hard, knowing that all of my hard work would be for nothing. That I would be working just to get approval from other people so that I can just get approval from them for whatever reason and then have a life that when I die, that's just it and no one knows me and no one gives a damn. So my meaning in life is first my family, having a family, having a stable loving relationship with a partnership, you know? Those things, that's what life is about to me. Um so you need to define what life means to you. That's very important that you define it. All right, now let's go over some values. Now, he was talking about shitty values. Okay. Pleasure is a horrible value. Pleasure. Oh my God. Pleasure is a horrible value. You're making decisions. If you got, let's say, let's take it down to like a young person level. Let's take it back to like college age. You gotta study because you got this exam coming up, or you got a paper to write. In college, it was endless papers. Like it was always a paper. Like there was never not a paper to write. And then you got fun. You can go to this really cool party. You finally got invited to some frat party or something, or there's this event that's happening, and everyone's telling you, let's go, and you have to decide on doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. What about the things that we do when we are college age that we do in the dark and we think that it's not ever going to come to the light because no one saw us do it and we're choosing pleasure? Let me tell you something. What you do in the dark may not, it might not come to light, but the only ones you're hiding it from is the people in this physical. You're hiding it from the flesh. The energies, the energy, the push and pull, the if you put in good and you get good, you do bad, you get bad, you can't duck that. There's no escaping that. The energy of what you do, you can't escape it. So if you do things that are of a negative energy, it will come back to you. Energetically, it will put a blockage in your life. You need to know that. I'm telling you this from real world, my own experience. There's things that you can do in the dark that no one will ever find out that you did, because you don't have to tell nobody that you did whatever it is that you did. It don't matter. The energy of what you did, the energy of what you have done is still there, and it's going to revolve back around to you in some way. Can't escape it. So you don't need to make decisions based on pleasure. You need to make decisions based on what's the best thing to do. I know y'all don't want to hear it. I know y'all don't want to hear it, but it's okay. I'm going to say it anyways. We make decisions based on pleasure and then get cold feet. We make decisions, we get into webinars, we get into um, things. I was recently involved in one of these situations. I'm kind of going through it now. I got cold feet. I got cold feet. I'm scared. I'm scared. And then I chickened out. And now I'm like, damn, oh, did I make a final decision based on an emotion of fear and kind of set myself back a little bit? Damn, I don't want you to do that. Don't get cold feet because you've made a decision based on pleasure. You're looking at the pleasure of the situation, and that's why you got cold feet. You're not looking at the transformation that you are about to have. You're not looking at the return of your investment that you will get from what you put in. Okay. So yeah, when we make decisions based on pleasure, you get cold feet and then you back out. And next thing you know, you want to reverse it. You're like, hold on, how do I get out this contract? Can I get out this contract, please? Can I get out the contract with no repercussions? Move forward. Don't be afraid. Overvaluing material success. A lot of us are overvaluing materialistic things. We think because of what we drive, because of where we live, because of how we dress, because of the way our hair and our makeup looks, the way our bodies are banging, that that is success. That is not success. It can be, you achieved it, so that is a level of success. But at the same time, if you're overvaluing your material success, you will decrease your value in everywhere else in your life. You're going to put those things first. You're going to put your material success before the actual success. That's why you need to know your meaning of life. It's very important if you know your meaning of life. Is your meaning of life living in a huge mansion and, having properties on different islands and, doing all of that kind of stuff? Is if that's your meaning of life, then you probably will overvalue material things. And then you'll also be that old person sitting in a nursing home by yourself, talking to your friends' visitors. And you know what they do? If you Have you ever seen that there's a movie on Netflix, I Care for You. Go and watch that movie, I Care for You, to see what ends up happening to a lot of old people who have a whole lot of money and don't have nobody to leave it to. They can take your money from you. They can make you a ward of the state, and they can take all your money away from you, confiscate it, and the caretaker, the person who's assuming the responsibility to you, they can liquidate your assets, because they're going to say that, oh, well, you don't have the mental capacity to take care of your own affairs anymore. So we that's the importance that's the importance of having a family and building that foundation if you can. It's not that is not a pretty sight. That is a terrible thing to happen, and it happens. You a rich person, you got a lot of money, you have no family or no one to leave it to. There are predators out there who will take care of you, make you a ward of the state, court of law, get your doctor's consent, put you into a nursing home, and liquidate your assets. And they are taking all the money. So we don't want to overvalue material success over the people in our lives and building lasting relationships and being good people. You don't want to be a liar and a manipulator for material success. Always being right. The person who always wants to be right and cannot take it when they're wrong. You don't want to always be right, because we're going to misremember things. We're going to misremember facts. We're going to misstate things. We're going to talk too fast sometimes. And like, hold on, I didn't mean to say that like that. I didn't even mean to say that. It just came out. You're going to misremember things. No one is ever always right. So we need to take away some of that. Take away some of that. You're not gonna always be right, and you need to understand that you are wrong sometimes. Okay, you are wrong sometimes. You are actually wrong a lot of the times. A lot of times we're wrong. We're wrong in our approach. We're wrong in our demeanor. We sometimes type of people, and it wasn't even their fault. They didn't even do anything. Sometimes we're the one that misplaced that thing, and we're blaming it on somebody else. We're wrong. We are all wrong. We need to stop glorifying people too, and understand that everyone has times where they're wrong. All right, staying positive. Shitty values. This is what we're talking about. Shitty, staying positive. And I'm somebody that tries to stay positive as much as possible. I really, really try to stay positive as much as possible. Meaning that every single bad thing that I go through in life, I rationalize it in my way to where this is going to actually bring about an opportunity for me. And he's saying that that's a shitty value. I think that it would be a shitty value if you are someone who is denying your problems. You're denying the existence of your problems, in an attempt that they'll just go away and smooth themselves out. But if you leave something to itself, it will just get progressively worse. If you leave something to just sit, think about a house that's just sitting there. That house just sitting there. That house been sitting there for 5 years, 10 years. It's been overtaken by vines and all kind of different stuff growing on. It's breaking down. It's breaking it down. So if you're leaving something to just work itself out over time, it probably won't just work itself out. We actually have to put in effort to keep it up, okay, to make it better. Negative emotions, express them without going. Wait, hold on. This ain't a full sentence. I really emotions are feed because he said emotions are feedback. So I had to get that. I had to catch that. Emotions are feedback. Okay. We need to express our negative emotions without going back on our core values. So, like he said, if your core value is to not fight, that's one of my core values. I used to be a fighter when I was young. Okay, I used to be a fighter when I when I was young. I wasn't the one starting fights, but most of the time, but somebody who gets bullied, they become a bully, and it just goes back and forth. But if not fighting is one of your core values, then when you have conversations with others, then you need to make sure that you are getting your point across in a way that you're not going to end up fighting that person, that you're not going to end up punching that person's not going to end up punching you. So that means you need to stay calm. You need to have a certain level of calm. You need to not be too wordy. Don't try to say too much and get a whole long dissertation out because that person don't hear that shit. Okay, they don't want to hear it. So try to say what you got to say in the least amount of words and put some honey on it. Okay, sweeten it up. If you vegan, put some agave on it and sweeten it up just a little bit so that you're not putting yourself in a position to where you have to end up getting into like a full-blown argument. But we do need to express the way that we feel. Don't be in denial. Okay, this is shitty values. Don't be someone who lives in denial. Denial of your problems, denial of yourself, denial of things that you said or done, denial of situations. It is what it is. Accept it. The first thing you need to do is accept it. You got to accept your problems first. You got to accept your faults first. And once you accept it, then you can change it. So don't, if you're in denial, then you can't fix nothing. That means you're just going to stay stuck where you are. As long as you're in denial, you're going to stay stuck. If you're trying to change your life and become a better person and move forward, you have to get out of denial. All right. Stressful activities lead to accomplishment. Accomplishment brings pleasure. Stressful activities. Okay. So, for instance, when you're trying to do something different in your life, you're trying to make a positive change in your life, trust me, it's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with challenges. The moment that you decide that you want to be a better person, you want to make your life better, you want to do something different, challenges are going to come about. It's going to come and it's going to test you. It's okay. Pass those tests because those challenges that come to you are areas that you need to tweak to make your goal a little bit better and more accomplishable. Okay. Each problem that you encounter will only help the thing that you're trying to do. It's trying to smooth something out for you. So if you're getting on to, let's say, I'm just going to use my detox as an example. Okay. If you're getting on to my detox and your friends and your family start cutting up, that's an area for you to grow. If your living situation changes right when you get on the detox, let's address that so that you can get into a better place in a better situation that'll be more conducive towards your goals that you're trying to accomplish. The place you are now is not where you need to be, and that's why you're experiencing those problems and those setbacks. It's okay. Push past the burn. Recognize it. Look at your challenges, look at your problems, and like I said, list them, itemize them. You will see a connection between your problems. And in that, in just itemizing it, giving it 5 words for each problem, you'll see a path to get out of it. Okay. Stress is the stressful activities that are aligned with our goals that will make everything accomplishable. That will put you on a path. Every problem that you overcome, you will be in a better situation. That problem will no longer exist. Okay. You overcame it, which means that you did something that made that problem better. It's no longer a problem. You fixed it. So that adds on to your life being better. I wish I could explain it in a different way. All right. What are good values? Reality based, socially constructive. Okay. We want to take responsibility for ourselves, our action, and where we are in life. We want to take responsibility for the past, because if you don't take responsibility for your past, then you're giving the people in your past who did those things to you, you're still giving them power, and you won't be able to move forward. You have to take back your power. And you take back your power by taking responsibility. Okay? If you're blaming someone else for the problems and issues that you've had in your past, then you need them to release you so you can move on. That's what happens when you blame others. When you blame others for your problem, then you're looking for them to fix it and provide a solution. So we don't want to be blaming other people. We don't want to blame people, especially that we can't even see them. We can't touch them. We can't There's nothing that we can do about it. It's done. You will never see them again. This scar I got on my eyes, I will never see that person ever again in my life. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I just must move on. I must move on. There's nothing that can be done about it. Okay? So stop holding on to situations that don't suit you. It's the past. You must let it go. Because if you are waiting for that person to release you so you can move on and not be bothered by that no more, it ain't gonna happen. You're gonna be stuck like Chuck for the rest of your life. You stuck. You stuck for the rest of your life because you are giving someone else the power to release you. So forgive yourself, take responsibility, and forgive yourself. It's okay, you didn't know what you know now. Had you known then what you know now, you wouldn't have been in that situation. But thankfully, we grow and we learn. So take responsibility for your life. And that is how you change your life rapidly. That's how I've been able to change my life rapidly, by me taking responsibility. I take responsibility for the pain and not the, I take I'm gonna take responsibility for all of it. I'm gonna take responsibility for the pain. I'm gonna take responsibility for the situations. I'm gonna take responsibility for my emotions about it. I'm gonna take responsibility, full responsibility for everything I've ever been through in life, period. Okay? Those people did not make me make those decisions. I made those decisions. All right? Now, by me taking responsibility, those people cannot hold me back. They don't need to release me. I release myself. So there's nothing that a person from the past, a relationship from the past can do. A situation of abuse from the past cannot hold me down or hold me back because I release myself. F them. It's the past and it's done. And I'm not in denial about it. And you may need to go and get therapy to move past that point. Okay? Uncertainty. The future, we don't know what the future holds. But I will tell you this: wherever your attention goes, your energy flows and you get what you put in. Okay? You're going to get out what you put in. So even though we don't know what the future holds, if you sit there and do nothing, then you can guarantee that your future is going to be nothing. Okay? You're going to get what you put in. And if you don't put nothing in, you're going to get more and more of the same. You're going to go through the same problems over and over and over again. Your life is not going to change and it's not going to progress. So yeah, life is uncertain, but take the chances that you need to to change your life. And when you are met with opportunity, do not let opportunity pass you by. Because yes, what it is for me, but at the same time, you can miss some things that are for you. You can miss some things that are for you. And you're gonna have to wait until it comes back around again. And you may not even realize that you missed it until it comes back around again. Don't let your opportunities pass you by. Failure is inevitable. Failure is inevitable and it's also necessary. If no one fails, there's no reason to do better, get better, be better. There's no reason to do better or be better if you don't fail first. If there's no known failure in your life, how can you become a better person? You're going to be a little shit. You're going to be a little snot nosed shit. If you experience no failure in your life, you have nothing to fight for, you have nothing to work hard for. So remember the story that we listened to earlier in the book about the king, the king who had his child, who he didn't want his child to experience any type of hardship, failure, and never see anything negative in life. He built a huge wall going around the castle to block his child from being able to see the poverty and the pain outside of the walls of the castle, the things that people really have to go through. And his child grew up resentful. resentful, you're gonna make a problem. If you ain't got a problem, your subconscious mind, you're gonna make a problem, because that's how we built as humans. You're gonna make a problem. Okay. So in that day that we talked about that, choose the problems. You can choose the problems. You can choose the suffering. Suffer with purpose. Don't suffer for nothing. Okay. Choose your suffering. I suffer with work. That is my suffering. I work, I work, I work, I work, I work for you guys. Okay. And that's what I do. And that's why I choose my suffering. And that's why I'm not suffering in other areas in my life anymore, because I chose the area that I want to suffer. So, yes, with certain things that I used to suffer with, I no longer suffer with that, but I still got problems. Still got problems. All right. Rejection. Rejection is inevitable. Get yourself comfortable with it. Get yourself used to it. This is something that they teach in sales. I've been in like sales and marketing since I like middle school or something. I started with Bronner Brothers. My mom worked for the company, and I just been in marketing and sales ever since. And rejection is something you got to get yourself comfortable with. I tell myself all the time. I tell myself all the time, look, they gonna say no. Don't even worry about it. We gonna do the whatever it is that we're doing anyway. They gonna say no. So that you fix yourself up. Fix yourself up for the no from the beginning. If you got um STD like HSV or something, and you're scared to date, and you're like, I don't want rejection. Trust me, rejection is direction. It is not even redirection. It is just direction. Rejection is direction. It's an easy way to, okay, I don't have to waste my time in that relationship. That could have took 2 years out of my life. That could have took 5 years out of my life. That could have took 10 or 12 years out of my life. But I just cut that shit in short by just being honest up front. I don't have to worry about the rejection. Let's get this out the way. Look, I got this, that, and the other going on. This is, the deal with me. This is the reason why my past relationships have failed. Okay. All right. This is the part that I played in it. All right. And let it be done. Accept the rejection. Accept rejection from potential clients. Accept rejection from different offers and things that you're trying to do. Accept the rejection, and then take that rejection and then see, okay, why did what was the rejection about? Okay. Is it an area that I can actually change or improve in my life, or is it, or is it just them? It be them. People are not going to always like the same things. Okay. Rejection is direction. As soon as you get yourself acclimated with rejection, especially if you're a business person, because a lot of business people follow me too, get yourself acclimated with rejection, and that will build you up to where when you go into your dealings with business, you ain't gonna be so thirsty. Okay. You don't want to be thirsty and begging for the sale. You're gonna beg for the sale and get a terrible ass client that you can't get rid of no matter what you do. So position yourself for rejection. That way you can make the choices. Okay. You can choose then. If you're okay with rejection, then that makes the choices that come to you in life easier. You're like, okay, you rejected, you rejected, you rejected. Okay. And y'all say yes. Okay. So, all right, now I'm going to decide between that. I'm happy that they weeded themselves out. Okay. They weeded themselves out. Perfect. And I had to do that myself on my Instagram. I had to make some pretty bold statements. Okay, to kind of redirect my flow, because I was getting the wrong target market. The wrong people were coming to me. I'm like, you are not my target. So what can I say that is going to make y'all see that you're not my target market? Because it's just not gonna, it's just, you're not my target. It's just gonna be a rough situation for both of us. And so I put out that video where I said, I don't care what your favorite herbalist said. I don't care what your favorite herbalist said. You can't alkaline the body. You can't alkaline the body, period. And that just weeds out a whole bunch of people who my process is not going to be good for, anyways. So that helps me with that one. You can do the same thing. Weed it out. Okay. Let them know. Hey, I got HSV1 and 2. Okay. I got HSV1 and 2. All right. I'm in control of my outbreaks. I don't get them very often, but I know when they're coming, and I know how to handle it. And I know when it's safe and when it's not safe. Okay. Bam. Are you interested in doing this? I know. And if the answer is no, fine. See ya. We don't need to be friends. We don't need to be friends after so that you can warm yourself up, warm yourself up to the idea because you was feeling me before you found out. Rejection is protection. I got a video. I'm gonna have to make that video back public. I got a video about that too. Rejection is protection. God is protecting you from situations that you don't want to be in. I had a client once who met a guy who was flying her out all over the place. She didn't tell him that she has HSV. Also, I want to let y'all know class is tonight. I put it down in the description, but class is tonight, 6 p.m. The free health class. I'm gonna teach all about HSV, how to get rid of the nerve pain and everything. But had a client, the man was flying her out all over the place, having a good time, and she never told him. Just met him, hadn't known him for maybe just months, a few months or something. And it's like what he's doing for you, flying you out and all this kind of stuff that he's got going on with you. You just met him. You need to be honest with him and you need to tell him what you have going on. And if he rejects you, first of all, you need to know that you're not the only one that this man is flying out all over the place. You're not the only one. If he's doing it with you and he just met you, he's doing it with others. He's done it before, and that's what he does. The best thing for you to do to protect yourself from a potential humiliating situation is to be honest upfront. And if he rejects you, it is protection because probably he's he's doing some other stuff too. He's doing some other stuff too. So don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of it. If he rejects you, your life gonna move on. Your life still goes forward. Yeah, it hurt. It hurts. It hurt when somebody don't. It hurts when somebody come into my comment section and they talking shit about me. Yeah, it kind of hurt a little bit. It hurts when people come. Try to come against me and stuff with my hard work and stuff. My feelings be hurt, but it's okay. That's fine. That's life. It's gonna happen. If your baby daddy reject you, it's okay. We must move on. You must move on. Life keeps going. It don't stop. And you don't know what God got for you around the corner. You have no clue what God got for you around the corner. Maybe just what you need. Contemplation to one's own mortality. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. But we are all going to die one day. We don't know when our last day is going to be. We need to be grateful that God woke us up this morning, even if you didn't want to be waking up. Even if you feel like, man, you could have just woke somebody else up instead. I don't know why you had to wait. I'm here again. I'm here again. I got to face the world again. I got to get myself up out this bed and I got to go deal with these people who I feel hate me in this place where I just feel like everybody hates me. And I just feel like it would just be better if I just left and was away from everybody. No, it's an opportunity for you to make a change, for you to do something different, for you to be different, for you to fix your life, for you to be a in somebody else's life, for you to take your pain and turn it into a testimony, like I did. Took my pain and all my situations and all the public mess that I go through, all of my whole everything, all public and stuff, you know, life is short. So every day that I got a chance, that God woke me up, every day that I woke up is an opportunity for me to do what it is that makes me happy. And I'm not talking about pleasure. I'm not talking about choosing pleasure over responsibility. I'm talking about an opportunity for me to not only change my life, change my children's lives, affect people around the world, change my family, change the path that my family is going in, help my community. It's an opportunity for me to be happy, for me to fix things, okay, for me to experience the joys of life, for me to experience my meaning of life. Where you are today is not where you're going to be a year from now, or 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. But all you have to do is take responsibility, understand that life is uncertain. And because life is uncertain, What do? We pray on it. You pray and you ask God to give you a clear sign in the direction that you need to go. God, give me an undeniable. Let's go ahead and go into our little prayer meditation right now. God, we come to you today, first of all, saying thank you. Thank you that you woke us up and you gave us another chance to come and do it again. God, I pray that you bless me, bless me with not just material things, that you bless my mind to see things in a certain way, to understand that people have different perspectives. God, I pray that you help me to be more patient. I pray that you help me to see my failures as opportunities. And God, I pray that you open up my mind and my sight and give me clear answers and clear direction on the things in my life where I need guidance. And I'm asking you to give me that guidance, and I will follow that guidance. I'm praying that I'm able to stay calm throughout the day when dealing with different people who are dealing with different stuff. And I pray that I get the opportunity to do it again tomorrow. And I thank you for these opportunities. And I won't squander these opportunities. Amen. So we're going to move forward in our day with that. And we're going to say our mantra before we get out of here. Okay? Because now we got a mantra. I am a person with problems, dealing with people with problems, and I choose to lead with grace. We will be back here tomorrow, same time, 8 a.m. ish. And if you're in the text club, I'm gonna send you a text message with a direct link to the video where you can just tap in right when I started. And we're gonna be reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, because we need to pick and choose our battles and give less fucks in certain areas. So I will see you guys later on tonight. Make sure that you text session to 404-737-1371. It's also in the description. Y'all have a great and powerful day. Bye. Oh, this is the lip bar.